Thank you very much, Debbie, for that. I just see it's a huge opportunity for this technology coming forward. When I was a young farmer, all the excitement was about computer-fed cows and how to parlour, and now when I think about it, how primitive it was compared to the opportunities going forward. I'd like to welcome to the platform for the discussion Jason Rankin, who's a dairy farmer from County Down, is also the General Manager for Agri-Research, the dairy levy body in Northern Ireland, and Hugh Robinson, who's the dairy farmer from County Londonderry, who's got a real keen interest in the application of precision technology to farming. And talking about technology, I was getting excited that we're going to have a live Skype panel discussion with Ian from New Zealand, but we're failing to connect at the moment, so if he suddenly appears, it means we've succeeded. But we're going to carry on anyway, and if he doesn't appear, it means that the line's gone down because it's late at night over there. First question, please, on that session.
Thank you very much. Jerry Boyle is my main Director of Teagasc. First of all, I want to compliment AFBI for a really interesting morning so far, in particular this session. There's a couple of points I'd like to make. First of all, Professor Ewell, I thought, raised a very interesting question among many. But in particular, I was minded to reflect on the point he raised about the role of public research or public research organizations in relation to precision and digital agriculture. And this is an issue we have been wrestling with, because it's fair to say all of the developments, I think, that we've observed in precision agriculture, both in arable and in pasture-based agriculture, the innovations have come from the private sector. And it's always a challenge for a research organization to know, what is its role in that context, apart from obviously mastering the technologies and being in a position to give farmers independent advice and information. But I actually think there is a market failure here that is not being addressed at the moment, and I think Debbie touched on this, and I'd be interested in the panel's view on this. Because what's been happening is companies have been developing individual sensors all over the place, and they're pushing and marketing their own sensor, and that's understandable. At the same time, the farmer has access potentially to a lot of information that is non-sensor based. For example, the dairy processor provides information, very valuable information, milk quality and so on. So I suppose my question is that, I think I have the answer myself, but I'd be interested in the panel's views on this. Is there a role for a public-private partnership in providing that kind of platform that would allow integration between databases that Debbie identified? And how could you do that? Because it seems to me a farmer is going to run very impatient, even where they are interested, in having to use a whole multiplicity of sensors with different operating systems, different decision rules and so on. Surely it must be possible to integrate that information in some way. And I'd be very interested in the panel views and how that could be done, because I think the only way and the only entity that can do that, provide that type of integration, is a public research type of organization, whether it be university or institute or whatever. Thank you.
I think that's a really pertinent question. Debbie, do you want to start with that one?
Yep, thank you very much for the question, and certainly just to pick up on one of your earlier points, where does research fit in this space? Ian alluded to it, technology development is happening so rapidly. How do we keep tabs on that, and where do we sit in there as public body and as researchers within that? I think one of the key activities that, in my mind, that we play a role in is actually taking some of the risk away from dairy farms. So with the new emerging technologies that are being developed, actually do they work in commercial farms, or do they work even on a research farm, and exploring what are some of the pitfalls that's there and in and around that technology. I suppose with regard to that data integration, I actually completely agree with you. There is huge opportunity there for somebody to bring that data together, to bring that onto a public platform. How you do that, herding cats comes to mind in terms of bringing so many different and disparate organisations and different interested parties together to do that. I don't have the answer as to how you go about doing that, certainly. I completely agree with you. It does need to be done in some way, shape or form, because we are not realising the true value of that data until we start to bring it together, either from the farmer's perspective or as in an industry or a researcher member as well.
I think there's some consensus about needing some strategic thought to this, because it isn't just private sector or farmers or the food chain interested. Government itself, in all its sense checks about animal wealth and welfare and food chain information, is also looking at this, and I think it could be incredibly fragmented and become almost another bureaucracy for the food producers, unless there's some strategic thought to this.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. There are increasing numbers of sensors coming on the market, and they each will generate megabytes, gigabytes of data, oodles of data. Our new Grass Check project has presented challenges for us. We're not, as a levy organisation, it's not up to us to prove product, but the key question is the integration of all this, and can we integrate weather data, GPS data, cow data, and so on, and how do we actually get from data to actually useful information that the farmer can absolutely absorb. And this is going to be a key challenge for the future, is actually trying to develop, at the end of the day, what the farmer wants is a decision support tool, not gigabytes of data. So I think really, and you're right, and that is where you probably are going to look at some kind of private-public partnership involving the researchers with that knowledge and that expertise in crunching the data, involving probably some industry organisations in the middle, but also obviously then involving the companies with all the various sensors. But you actually need some kind of coordination in there if you're going to actually make sense of all these disparate data sources.
It's just reiterating what Debbie and Jason said, really, and trying to get all that information and keep it as simple as possible to use it at the farm gate, really. I think it's all fair and well gathering this information up, but it's just keeping it that it's simple to use on the farm level, really.
The consensus is very advantageous, but we've got to make sure it works for our advantage. There's a question there.
John Gilliland, I chaired the Land Management Strategy Working Group, and one of our key recommendations was actually to create a central database with a decision support tool in a public-private partnership, because we believe it's the only way forward here. The two sessions today, I actually love the conversation precision agriculture vis-a-vis digital agriculture. I hadn't heard it reflected in that way coming from New Zealand, but certainly what we saw is the need for digital agriculture where farmers personalise it using precision agriculture on their own data and how they relate it to that data, that central database. But a decision support tool, Jason, I'm absolutely supportive of that, is how then do we drill into this, not only on grass yield and grass quality, but then the roles of LiDAR for overland flow and looking at water quality, looking at some of the other things that we could do in the farm at the collective approach. So I would concur with Jerry that certainly a public-private partnership around a digital database with a decision support tool where it can be personalised with then precision measuring to help that grass utilisation and grass quality.
Thank you.
John, if I can make just a quick comment on that, I think you're absolutely right. And I think you come back to what Professor Yule said, was actually some of these things on farm. Yes, it's his efficiency, but then it's that dissemination of the benefits on down, past that into the environment and the global impact.
Question there, John.
Thank you, Chairman. John Henning, Agri-Search and CL. Two excellent presentations from Ian and Debbie. And I suppose the question for me is, how do we improve the adoption of those technologies amongst a greater number of farmers? In other words, how do we create more movers and adopters?
suppose I'll kick off on that one. I think, John, very pertinent question. There's no point these technologies being developed if they're never going to be used on farm. I think there's two aspects to that. I think there's a little bit of activity that needs to take place on the side of the farmer. When we purchase precision technologies, we need to be making sure that we're asking the right questions. Why am I buying this technology in the first place? What data is it going to give me? And how am I going to use that data? And what are my KPIs for actually getting a return on investment from that technology? And by going through that process, already we're in a situation where we're getting farmers more bought into the technology and more likely to explore and utilize that technology to its full potential. I think the other aspect is actually there is a technology movement already happening. We look at the skills of people coming through school and university now. They're a lot more adept at using social media and technology there. We need to build on that movement. That skills base is there. We need to make sure our agricultural systems and our agricultural training is supporting that and delivering that skills base, and I'd be keen to hear Hugh's thoughts on this, because farmers at the minute, to me, our younger generation, have the skills there to use that technology and actually have the interest as well in that. I don't know, Hugh, if you want to comment.
I think maybe as an industry we probably need to be less tenure traditionalists and probably try and adapt more technology. I know with my own experience, been involved in the new grass check, we've been given weather stations and GPS plate meters just to try and get out there and measure grass, and it has taken a lot of legwork out of it. And even my father, who's probably the most traditional man you'll ever meet, is getting involved with it as well. So I think it's educating farmers as well, and hopefully they'll get there in the end.
Question there, the last question before lunch. No, just down at the front. Or if there's no, one at the back as well. No, we'll fit two in.
Hi, this is Maria Gelvenzu from AFPI, and I'm interested, thank you for your presentations, they were really good. I'm interested in the link with animal health, and I was just wondering if you have thought, because I think it has great potential of linking production parameters and animal behavior, etc., to trying to identify new and emerging conditions, so I wonder if you have explored that at all.
Yep, I think, again, there's huge potential there. A lot of the cow-based sensor technology that we've seen developed in the last 3 to 5 years are really focusing in on animal health, estrus detection, lameness, even information around calving, and early onset of metabolic diseases. I think from the health perspective, once we start to look at the weather data coming in, it was alluded to earlier about climate change and the impact that's having on spread of disease. There's a lot of technology that we can draw from the precision technology that we're putting in place at the grassland platform at AFPI and on the farms as well, which will give us some insights into some of the key issues with regard to health. So.
Thank you. Question.
Just one very quick comment. Simon Docherty, I'm ex-AFPI, but I'm the animal science and aquaculture specialist for the Department for International Trade. It was really just, I suppose, a comment to highlight. AFPI is part of CL, which is one of 4 innovation centres that were set up after the government published its agricultural technology strategy. I know that AFPI also is looking at some potential involvement with Agri-Food as well, which is a Precision and Engineering Solutions Centre. And I know that Agrimetrics, which is the centre which is largely focused on data, is having a look at this whole area of digital integration and data integration. They recently held an open innovation forum at Rothamsted, and one of the big problems that has been alluded to already this morning is the question over data ownership and data access. So as soon as more and more data becomes open, then there will be more and more platforms available for actually integrating that data. But until we get to a point where we've actually tackled some of the areas around access and ownership, I think there's still going to be a problem. And just to highlight that beyond the 4 agri-tech innovation centres, there are also a number of kind of virtual hubs, if you like, throughout the UK. So one based at the University of Surrey is specifically focused around digital innovation in animal health, bringing together their veterinary school at Surrey, their business school, their 5G Innovation Centre, and the global veterinary pharmaceutical companies, the Zoetis. But I think it is important that we all keep talking, and the more talking, the better.
In terms of, you mentioned the other agri-tech centres, as sort of chair of CL, I'll certainly say that we're working with and trying to develop common vision with the others, particularly Agri-Epi and Agri-Metrics, and we see some crossover, and in terms, some of the research centres have already got links with both of those parties. So what we've got to avoid is unnecessary a duplication, because that's costly, and I just think your point about open data is important, is the access to the right data in the right form so that can be used, and that's very important. The panel. Final comment from the panel on that. Debbie, have you got any points to make on working with the Agri-Metrics as well as CL and avoiding duplication? What's your final word before lunch?
I agree with you. There's huge opportunity there. I think one of the skill sets that working with Agri-Metrics and the other centres offer us is really to bring in expertise on data management and dealing with large data sets. And there's a lot that we can learn from how they use technology in the arable industry, how they use technology in other sections of agriculture, and that's developing very rapidly. So started off this morning with a presentation talking about collaboration. Collaboration is key. Certainly it's something that I think through CL and through the Centres of Excellence we're hopefully going to see a lot of, and I think that should bring added benefit to what we do as researchers and hopefully to the farmer as well.
Thank you very much. I think it's been a really interesting morning. I want to thank all the speakers. I'm sure you do as well for taking part in this. Particularly thank Ian as well, who's not joined us, but we probably hear us clapping from the other side of the world. It's been a really good session. We've started to see the opportunities, and we've seen, I think, pitfalls has come out in the discussions as well, so it'll all add to our learning. The lunch is now going to take place, and the doors should magically open as I finish speaking, so you can go through and get a table in there. You've got to be back in your seats for 2 p.m. because that's when the afternoon chairman will start his session. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to the speakers this morning, and I think there's some real opportunities there for the future, and taking advantage of the opportunities we've listened to this morning will allow us to cope with what some of the speakers will pick up as issues later on this afternoon. So on behalf of all the speakers, I'm sure you want to thank them. Lunch is served.